Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. There is something going on in my hair, so just ignore it. It's because I blow dried it before going to bed and then went to bed, and now it's just like a mop, but it's clean. Today is Monday. It's actually a bank holiday and I wanted to start a new reading challenge for the next 7 days. So today I've obviously not got work, and then Saturday and Sunday at the end of the week is actually clear, and so I really wanted to do this. I saw Sarah, who you've probably all seen. I've seen her do this and I was like, I want to do it. I've got a never growing TBR because as much as I keep shrinking it, I then keep growing it. So I need to work my way through some of the books on my TBR, and I just thought this was like a really fun way of doing it. I'm gonna read books inspired by my name. So my name is Katie, Katie, and effectively you pick a book that has that letter, so like K and then A, as the first letter of one of the words in the book title. And then if you're missing one, like if you can't find a book where one of the words begins with K, you can then go to the author's name and you find an author's name instead. I just thought it was quite a fun way to pick up some books, maybe get to some books that I've been like potentially avoiding or haven't got round to. So I'm going to flash back to yesterday where I picked up these books because I really wanted to start reading on Sunday evening because I just finished the book that I just finished, and we'll flash back to yesterday when we're picking. It's the night before. I'm filming this with the most unusual lighting because I really want to read in bed and I finished my book, and so therefore I'm going to have to pick these in order to be able to read the next book. So I've introed this already. Well, I will film it tomorrow, but I've introed this already. Let's get choosing. So these are all the books on my TBR. So the first book we're going to go with is K, and the options are Finley Donovan is Killing It, and then Steve Kavanagh's Kill for Me, Kill for You. I think I kind of have to go for this because it's got like double K, which is just like ultimate K vibes. I don't really know a huge amount about it. If you love a kind of thrillery, detective-y, but more thriller author, Steve Kavanagh, absolutely adore him. So this is K. We've then got A, which, I mean, this is eligible, but that is an absolute beast. So I'm gonna say probably not, but it's there. I mean, do we count like A at the beginning of the book? I don't think so. I think that's kind of cheating. As Good as Dead, The Ask and the Answer. Because I want to finish off the series, and round off the whole thing. I'm gonna go with As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. So we've got K and we've got A. The next letter is obviously T. Let's go. I'm not going to include the, otherwise there'll be loads of them. Or do I include the? No. So we've got Things I've Left Behind. If we don't include the, that is the option. God, I'm actually finishing off loads of series in this book. So that is the last book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, and then this is the last book in the Knock 'Em Out series. So we've got Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score, so that is T. For I, we've got Ignite Me, which is the last book in the Shatter Me series. Not in Love. The Fault in Our Stars. Finley Donovan is Killing It. The Last Smile in the Sunder City. Ooh, loads of options. I've got a couple of romances already and no fantasy, so I'm actually going to go with Imagine Me, which is the last book in the Shatter series, so that is my I. And then the last letter is E, which I actually don't think I have any books that have an E in them, so I'm going to go to the author and go with the author instead and see if there's any authors. Pierce Brown, Hastings, J, S, M, AP. So I've got Emily Henry. Oh, I've got this one. There you go. I've got two options. I've got Book Lovers and Finley Donovan is Killing It. I think as this one has been applicable for quite a few, I'm going to go with this one. And these are my books. So excited. So I'm going to start with K and we'll work my way through the name. So you've now seen me pick these 5 books. So we've got Steve Kavanagh's Kill for Me, Kill for You, Holly Jackson's As Good as Dead, Lucy Score's Things We Left Behind, Tahira Mafi's Ignite Me, and Elle Cosimano, I think is her name. Finlay Donovan is killing it. And I started reading Steve Kavanagh's book last night, so I'm 100 pages in. I've read a couple of his books before. 50/50, I remember there were like two sisters who their father had been murdered in their home, and they were the only two people in the home when it happened, and both sisters had said the other sister was the one that did it. And so it's this entire case of like trying to work out which one is innocent and which one isn't, and I absolutely loved it. This is a little bit different. You've got two mothers of children who were taken from them early, and they both feel like they know who actually did it, but obviously they can't get their like revenge because it would be very easy to trace back to them and they'd go to prison. So they meet someone who has a very similar story to them, and they decide to like trade murders. So like, I'll do yours if you do mine. And yeah, that's kind of as far as I've got. Albeit there's like another little sub story going on, which I haven't quite worked out why it's there yet. Knowing Steve Kavanagh, it'll be there for a very, very interesting reason. There is a woman who was in her home. Her husband had gone out to the pub, and then at like 2 a.m. there's like a smash, and she assumes it's him getting back from like a night out and like smashing glasses. So she goes down to like basically tell him off, and then she is stabbed multiple times, and it's now like her recovering from it. So I don't know why her story is there yet, but knowing Steve, it'll be for a very, very interesting reason. So yeah, I'm currently on page 98, and I'm very much looking forward to this book. I'm going to tell you the plots of each book as I get to them, so it's probably not too repetitive, but yeah, so far so good. I mean, these books to me are never like 5-star. I feel like they don't evoke that much emotion out of me, but they are really, really, really solid thrillers. Like, I think every single one of his books has either been 4 or 4.5, and I am very excited to read this. I don't really see anyone talk about Steve Kavanagh. I think that's how you pronounce his name, and I love his books. I think they're amazing, and yeah, this one is the latest one. So I'm gonna go head outside, read this, and then we're gonna go head out for a walk. I'll take my book with me, and when Alex he needs to go buy some things, so when he's going to buy those, I'm gonna go sit probably outside and read my book. So excited. I look like my teenage self with this hair. I am coming up to halfway through the book. I'm on page 183. I think I've worked out the link between Ruth and the other two characters in the story. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I have. But then I feel like that's way too easy. I think I've worked out the link. Then what goes from there, I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, I'm just coming up to halfway through. I'm gonna go sit back outside, make a cup of tea, and keep reading. The twist was about 90% of what I thought it was. So I guessed it, sorry, I'm twizzling you around because you were like at a weird angle. I guess like 90% of what the twist was. So I pretty much saw it coming. There's like a slight little like curveball right at the end of the book, which I think if I thought about it more, I probably would have seen that coming too. But yeah, it's good. I don't think it caught quite as much of the like, oh my god, what is going on, as the previous two books of his that I've read. But it still is a great book. I'm going to say 4 stars. There is something about his writing that's just really Moorish. Like, you just want to like keep going. So yeah, I finished Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve. I think it's Kavanagh, I think. If I've pronounced that wrong this entire time, sorry. K has been read. Now let's move on to A, which is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. Now this is the 3rd and final book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, which follows Pip, who I don't know if she's still in school, but she was in school during the last 2 books. And in the first one, she was writing I want to say something project when you're in 6th form about a murder that went unsolved while she was at school, and she pairs up with the brother of the person who was originally accused of it, or can't quite remember to be honest, and then they find out what happened. Then the second book, she then has a podcast, and she basically has to solve a different kind of, I think it's not a murder, or it's a disappearing person. And now this one is a stalker who keeps asking who will look for you when you're the one who disappears. And yeah, this is the 3rd and final book. I really enjoy these books because one, they're quite easy to read. They're like YA thriller. So while this is like proper adult thriller, this is YA, so it's actually a little bit like quicker to get through because it's a little bit less intense. The previous ones have been mixed media. I don't think this one is. I mean, there's this, but yeah, I'm gonna read this. This is my next book. This is my A, and yeah, we'll see how this goes. This will be finishing off another series, which is also on my little like plan for the next 2 months. I really want to finish off a lot of the series that I'm like part of the way or nearly finished, and this is one of them. It is now 4:30, so I might take a little bit of a break before I continue. But yeah, good start. 4 stars, really enjoyed it. Love Steve Kavanaugh's writing. He's one of those like go-to authors. If they release a book, I'm reading it, you know? So I've been tucked up in bed reading this book, and I'm currently on page 176, and you're basically watching the main character go slightly insane. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be stalked by someone who actually has like bad intentions, and she's being stalked by someone who she's just made the link as to the concept of who it could be, but not like the actual person. Like, it's almost like you can feel her going slightly insane. I do still feel the same way about this character as I did in the first 2 books. She comes across a little bit annoying, slightly entitled. She just comes across like someone who just like, I don't really know. I just find her character quite annoying, but the plot and everything going on around it, absolutely adore it. So yeah, I'm currently on page 176. It is coming up to 11 o'clock, so I think I might call it a night, and I will check with you guys later. It's now the next day. I have read a chunk of this book on the way to and from work, and I'm now on page 314. This is putting the life and death situation of the first 2 books to absolute shame. Like, this book is really intense, although we have now worked out who it is. And they're setting up how the second half of the book is going to be. It's about Pip then proving who it is to people who, basically the police really doubt her because she tends to like cry wolf, and like not necessarily crying wolf for the wrong reasons, but just sort of crying wolf too early. So then they kind of don't really trust her. So she's worked out who it is in the most horrific way, and now she kind of has to prove who it is. And I'm not going to say what happened because it's going to absolutely ruin the book, but this is like next level life or death. It's actually quite stressful. The last 2 books, as much as there was like quite an intense storyline, they were actually relatively chill reads because fundamentally her life, it never really felt like it was in jeopardy. But like this book, it's quite intense. So yeah, I am just over halfway through on page 315 out of 550. So yeah, I'm gonna keep reading this, and I'll probably check in with you guys when I finished it, I imagine, which will probably be tomorrow. But it's an intense book. I just finished this book, As Good as Dead. I don't know what to rate it. I'm really torn about where this sits in the rating. I think I might have to sit on it for a bit. The ending, I found the ending very stressful. I found the ending like so unbelievably stressful. You think it's wrapped up and then it like unravels again, and then you kind of don't get the satisfying ending that you were kind of hoping for or expecting. I can't work out where this book sits. I feel like it's somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4, but like exactly where, I'm not sure. It's not a calm book. Like, don't read this to chill out and have like a nice reading experience. This is probably definitely the most stressful of these 3 books. I'm glad I read it. It was very interesting. I enjoyed how it wrapped everything up across the 3 books. But yeah, it was a roller coaster ride of a book. Like, a case gets introduced, you kind of solve the case as Pip halfway through. It's then her trying to like piece things together. She then solves it sort of like here, it falls apart, and then like it fixes literally in the last page. So it was like, I just feel like you don't quite get the satisfaction that you were kind of wanting from the last book of a series. Like, it almost feels like it's still on a cliffhanger for the next book. Let's go get the last one. So the next book is Tea. And the tea book is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score, which is the last book in the Knock 'Em Out series, which follows Lucian and Sloane, which if you've read the first two books, you will have been introduced to these two characters. I feel like this one will probably be the best of the three because they already know each other, so therefore it's not going to be like weird kind of like instant attraction the first two books have. There's like a lot of history there. You've watched their relationship kind of unfold sort of through the other books, so I think this one will be quite interesting. I liked the first one. I found the second one a little bit like repetitive of the first one, so I'm hoping this will be a change. And I enjoy the like weird plot that goes alongside involving like kidnapping and things. Yeah, I'm gonna read this one as the third book and go put this one on the bookshelf. So it is Wednesday evening. I am 120 pages into Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. I find her books all have the same kind of problem in them. It gets very, very, very physical, but not in like a angsty building of tension way. It just feels like it's like unnecessarily physical. Like they haven't done anything yet, but it's like when the two main characters see each other, there's not like a that's my person. There's not like a joy or like any kind of feeling other than staring at her legs or oh my god they're so fit or I want to rip their clothes off. You know, there's nothing emotional about their attachment, and I thought these two characters would be different because they've had history, but it kind of feels like they're not really like leaning on that. Like, I get there's like a level of resentment / hatred about something that's clearly happened at one point. I don't think that's necessarily ruining anything because that as a concept's been introduced in the previous book. So I get there's like a level of like resentment, but and they're just feeling very samey. Like I feel like the setup for this book is pretty much the same as the setup for the previous two books. And I was hoping this one would be different, like I say, because these characters have known each other for like since they were at school and they're now like approaching 40. Yeah, I'm not sure. So this paragraph I feel like sums up the entirety of this book so far. It's from Sloane's point of view. I really was. Everyone around me was falling in love, getting married and starting or growing families. It was making me acutely aware of my current single status. I feel like that is basically the summary of her in the first 150 pages of the book. And then the summary of Lucian is, I'm a nice guy, but I don't want people to know it. I turned slowly and drank in the godlike hotness of Lucifer himself. It was impossible not to. It was like standing in a room with a great work of art and trying not to memorise every masterful brushstroke. That would be cute if there was something emotional underneath, but at the moment that's kind of like all they say about each other. It is Thursday evening. It is 10:30. Just got home from the office. We have drinks in the office on a Thursday. Sounds way more fun than it sounds. Wait, what's the expression? It is way more fun than it sounds. But I've come home. I've been reading on the way home and I've read a chapter or two since I've got home. And I'm on page 266, which is coming up to halfway, not quite halfway. And I think, as far as I'm aware, you've just found out the reason why Lucian and Sloane like dislike each other so much in the book. And I do think it's actually quite a valid reason. I mean, I can't necessarily relate because I haven't been in the situation that these two characters were in when they were teenagers, but I can see how it would create that level of like resentment. So I just don't think it's well written in the like current time. Like I feel like that is something that you would hold on to for a long time. Like I can totally see that. But the way it's written, it's like, it's just too physical. And I think I've said this before. If there was like that same feeling, they still found each other attractive, but there was still something else they liked about them, fine. It just feels like they kind of hate each other apart from the fact they think each other are quite fit. And it's giving a very, very similar vibe, especially to the second one. Similar vibe, they kind of knew each other a little bit growing up. They hate each other for like some unknown reason, but were like stupidly attracted to each other. They kind of resisted it and then eventually got together. Not really a spoiler, it's a romance book. And this is feeling quite similar. There's just a lot more history there. And I thought because the characters were older and there's a bit more history because they were actually like BFFs, I just felt like it was going to be a bit more mature and they were going to approach things like you can hold a grudge but in a slightly more mature, like adult-like way. And I thought that was how this book was going to be, but it's just not. And yeah, that's my update. So it's August and I'm wearing a jumper, but I finished this book. So this is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. I think you can hear the fan outside. Let me just close the door. So I just finished this book. It was fine. I think I'd rate it like a 3 stars. Like it gets better the further through you get because they then start behaving slightly like adults. It does slightly annoy me that there's like really sweet romantic moments they start to have towards the end of the book. Like if you read this book, the scene where she goes through something quite traumatic and he carries her home and puts her in the bath and like washes her off, and yet he's still having like really sexual thoughts, and it's like this woman has just gone through trauma and you're supposed to be emotionally supporting her. Control yourself. And I find that's kind of the problem with these books. I just find they're just a bit too much. But yeah, it was fine. I liked it enough. I would say like probably 2.5, 3 stars, middle of the range, did its job. It was fine. And now we go to I in my name. So this is Imagine Me by Tahira Mafi. I don't know if this is the last book of the series. I think it might be, but this is part of the Shatter Me series, which follows Juliet Farras, or Ferraz? I don't know. She was a young girl who basically she has this power of touch that ends up killing people, and she's been used as kind of like a weapon, and she's been held in a kind of establishment, and then it's kind of you go through her story of finding herself, etc. And I obviously can't tell you what's going to happen in this book without ruining the rest. It gets better. The first book wasn't the big fan of. The more books you read, the better the series gets. But yeah, I've got the next book on my list. Can't wait to read it. And yeah, I will let you know how it goes. But yeah, next book, let's go. Now Saturday. It is the middle of the day. You can't quite tell because it's giving like autumn outside and the sky is grey and the light isn't great, but it is the next day. It is coming up to 11 o'clock and I've made it a blooming good way through this book. I mean, these books are so quick and easy to read. I'm currently on page 338. I mean, there's like what, probably like 100 pages left and a heck of a lot of story to wrap up. I did search it up. This is the last book and then there's a novella that comes after this that I've still got in the wardrobe. So yeah, this is the last book, which means the story itself has to wrap up and there's a lot of loose ends. We've kind of connected all the dots, but we haven't actually like completed the mission. And I find these books do that quite a lot. I can't remember what book it was it the third one or the fourth one, where you're all building up to this moment and the moment seems to like solve itself in a very short space of time. I still love it. The world this woman, I think this woman, has created is insane. I also think it'd be a really good like CW show. You know, like back in the days of like Vampire Diaries and Supernaturals and like all those TV shows. I feel like it would be like a slightly younger version of those, and I think it would be quite cool. It's one of those series I think I want to go back and reread at some point. I feel like there are bits from the earlier books I didn't quite like appreciate the significance of until you get to the last one. But yeah, I need to finish this book. It won't take me very long. Honestly, the text is huge, like if you can see that. The text is huge, and then there's quite a lot of page breaks from where it changes point of view. So there's a lot of like empty space basically in this book. So it's quite an easy book just to like whiz through. So I think I'll be able to finish these last 100 or so pages in not much time at all. So we shall see. Very nearly finished. I finished it. I finished the book, and therefore I finished the Shatter Me series by Tahira Mafi. I have 2 of the novellas still to read. So I have the novella that's like in the middle of the series, which I just, for some weird reason, I skipped it. And then I have the novella that comes after this book. So I've still got 2 more books in this universe, but I finished the overarching story. I can't tell you why I don't feel as like satisfied as I thought I would, having like rounded up the story. I think it's because you kind of expect it and you see it coming. It just wasn't quite as much of a, I don't know, I don't feel particularly satisfied, but it was a good book. I'm gonna rate it 4 stars. Still had a good time reading it. The characters are great. The world is amazing. It's so very clever. So yeah, loved it. But like, there's something about the ending that's just left me wanting more, which is potentially why there's a novella. So I'll read that and save my final verdict of the series until then. But yeah, I finished this book. So this is the I of my name, which means we're on to the very last book. And if you remember back to the beginning of the video, which for me was like Monday, I think actually it was Sunday. I'm pretty sure I filmed that. I don't know, I filmed that a while ago. My last letter of my name is E, Katie, and I actually didn't have any books with a word beginning with E in the title, so I went for an author, and there were 2 authors, Emily Henry and Elle Cosimano, and I went with the second one because the name of the title had other letters in it, so it had I for the I in Katie, and K, so it felt like it was hitting a couple of different like points of the name. It's a very floppy book, which I absolutely adore. I feel like that's a very American thing. I feel like the American books are always quite floppy. But anyway, this is about a crime writer who, I mean, I don't really know, I've not read it yet, but a crime writer who something happened. She ends up going to meet with her literary agent to discuss the plot of her latest crime novel. And then the conversation is misinterpreted by a woman who sits nearby and assumes it's like real. So that woman then slips Finley a name and a promise of a large cash sum to kill someone. It just sounds absolutely deranged, and I think it's actually really, really good fun. So this is the next book on my list. It is, I think, one not to be taken too seriously, which would be a nice book to finish this series off with. But yeah, another book down, another book to go. I think this afternoon Alex is going to go to the cinema to watch the latest Alien film. I don't know if I'm going to go with him. I feel like I watched Prometheus, and then from then onwards I just can't get into those films anymore. I know everyone says it's the worst one, but I think it's just put me off. So he's going to go watch that, and I think I'm going to go and sit in a cafe or something and read some of this book. I might also bring another book out with me, depending on how far through this I feel like I'm going to get. But yeah, I'm very excited about this. This is the last book of this challenge, and yeah, I'm very excited. I came to edit this video and realised I never wrapped it up, and I also never showed any clips of me reading Finley Donovan is Killing It. And honestly, I sat in a cafe and I devoured the entire book. I had so much fun. It's honestly just such a fun, light-hearted, not too serious, but like you're kind of weirdly invested book. I freaking adored this book. I had the best time, and then when I finished it I was really sad that I'd finished the book, and that's just, you know when you just know it's like chef's kiss. Then I discovered it was part of a series and life was perfect again. So I honestly had the best time. This book was so much fun, and I was even telling Alex the concept of the plot and he was like really on board with it as well. I'm just gonna keep saying I had a lot of fun. It's a really fun book. But it is now like a little while after I finished filming this vlog. So it's been like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a little while. It's now like the middle of September. So these are the 5 books I read during this vlog. A very varied read. Some I enjoyed, some I didn't. A 5-star, a not so 5-star. So I'm not going to go through reviews in detail because you've already seen those during this video, but what I'm going to do is a quick roundup of where I settled the stars, because I know some of them were like teetering on I wasn't sure. So the first one being K is Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanagh. Had a good time, enjoyed it. not my favourite of his, so I gave this a 4 stars. We've then got As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, which is the final book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy. Similar, had a really good time. Wouldn't say it's my favourite of the series, but I enjoyed how it wrapped it all back together, and it was very stressful. So 4 stars. We then got Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. I've only read this series by her, but I feel like the more of the books you read, the more repetitive they feel. So I enjoyed the first book. The second book felt like a repeat of the first book, and then the third book felt like a repeat of the second book. I gave this 2.5 stars. It was fine. It didn't offend me. I just didn't massively enjoy it. We've then got Imagine Me, which is the last book in the Shatter Me series by Tahira Mafi. I liked this book. The reason why I didn't love it is because for some reason it just didn't capture what I loved about the 4th book. The 4th book for me was like chef's kiss, and then for some reason it's never quite captured that like feeling. I'm really interested to read the novella that happens after this because I think I mentioned it earlier. I feel like I kind of want to know a bit more. I feel like I was left kind of wanting a bit more. Yeah, 4 stars. And then the crowning glory of this entire book, a 5-star read. It's not serious. It's not gonna like change your life or teach you something deep or make you cry or anything like that, but you will have the best time reading it, and I can imagine this being like the most hilarious Netflix show. I just loved it so much. I can't wait to read the next one. I had so much fun, so much. And yeah, that is the end of this video. I know my reading vlogs don't necessarily get like the best viewing figures, and some of you probably don't really want to see them, but I have so much fun reading them. Reading has been a passion of mine since I was a kid. Oh my god, there's a rainbow! So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, leave a comment and let me know your most recent favourite book, because I'm always on the lookout for more books, like always. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!